Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mr. Speaker Speaks. It is the podcast that informs, challenges, and inspires. It's real talk from real people about real things. And it is the show, even though it's entitled Mr. Speaker Speaks, it is the show where the guests actually get to speak. And we always look forward to hearing from our guests because they're going to enlighten us and give us things to help us become better, to help us to grow. And I have the pleasure today to have a wonderful guest who's going to talk to us about physical health and things that we can do, that whole thing called exercise. I remember when I was in the Army, it was easy to stay in shape because we had to get up every day, especially in Korea, and run 6 days a week. We only had Sundays off, so we exercised 6 days straight. So we're going to have a great time today. And so, to learn more about me, just visit vincenttedwards.com. That's vincenttedwards.com. And then you can join my online community at vincentondemand.com. It's where you can have access to exclusive videos about training and things to help you pivot into your purpose with power and precision. Because remember, life is all about purpose. And my question to you is, do you know yours? Do you know your purpose? And so my guest today is the world renowned, internationally known James LaValle. And we're going to be talking about exercise, probiotics, how to get over muscle soreness. Because did you know that just 1 in 5 adults exercise each day? Even more concerning, many who begin an exercise program soon give up, with muscle soreness being a leading reason. We've all experienced it. I have. Starting a new routine to only be sidelined by muscle pain and fatigue, making it difficult to stay on track. But what if you could learn how to from those who make it look easy? How do athletes maintain their rigorous routines and recover quickly, even after intense workouts? And we don't have their budget, so we're going to have to just understand how do we do it on our limited budget. But like always here on Mr. Speaker Speaks, we're going to say a prayer, and then we'll have an inspirational verse of scripture, and then you'll be hearing from my guest on today. Heavenly Father, we truly thank you for another opportunity to come together to share information, to help each other, to help us become better so that we can fulfill our purpose and our destiny, which you designed us for. And so now, Father, I just ask that you take control of this conversation. You guide it in the direction that you see fit so that those who hear it and watch it will learn something, but not only learn something, but learn something that will help them to grow and that they can share so that others can benefit. And we give you all the praise and all the glory. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And our inspirational passage of scripture today comes from 3 John 1 and 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. So we're going to talk about being in good health on today. My guest is a clinical pharmacist, author, and board certified clinical nutritionist with more than 40 years experience in metabolic and integrative medicine. He is chief science officer for Lifetime and CEO of Metabolic Code Enterprises. He serves as an academic and clinical co-chair for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and the chair of the International Peptide Society, having trained thousands of healthcare professionals on the value of integrative health programs. He is a scientific advisor for probiotics.com. And I could go on, but I'm just going to tell you this. He's an expert when it comes to exercise. He's an expert when it comes to health and nutrition. And so today, James, before we get started today, before we dive into all of these things about health and metabolism, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of health or wellness advice, what would it be?
Don't sweat the small stuff, Jim. Learn how to manage that stress. And I honestly think that would be the big one. I remember, being young and, and I've written 28 books. So, the first few books I'm stressing out and I'm teaching at medical school, pharmacy school. Everything was stress, stress, stress. And, you know, learn how to overcome that earlier and realize it's all about joy. It's all about fun. It's all about being of service. And when you do that, the stress goes away. So that's what I'd probably go back to my younger self and try to explain.
Yeah, to relieve that stress, because stress, it's a killer. And even today, there are a lot of stressors out there. People are facing anxiety. But how does exercise play in the relieving of stress?
Oh, that's a great question. So it depends how hard you exercise, right? So if you go out there and you're going to be real intense, like, pro athlete, they're getting paid, right? Well, college athletes are getting paid, right? So if you're an athlete getting paid, or you want to be a CrossFitter or going to run in the Spartan Games or something, the harder you train, the more stress hormones you release, and the harder it is on your immune system. For the average person, moderate exercise that balances your stress response will strengthen your immune system, and you'll burn off some of those excitatory neurochemicals your body has been releasing through the course of that stressful day. So, I loved your approach before we got started. You started walking and you committed to it. On December 30th, you committed to walking every day, and you haven't missed it. And therefore, you're reaping the benefits from it. And I think that's a great place to start. But you do have to be careful. People tend to overexercise. If, like just like you're in the military. I was an ex-athlete, and we want to think like we can do those things again. And we got to remember, we got a couple miles on the tread,
Yes, indeed.
and so you kind of got to train. I know for myself, turning 65 this year, I need to train differently than when I trained when I was 25, when I was 35. But the one thing I do know is I do need to exercise as I'm aging.
One thing I just heard you say was, like, with the athletes, they train harder, and because they're getting paid. But I heard you say it also affects their immune system. Why does exercise at that level affect your immune system when, if you do it, at a lesser rate, so to speak, it benefits your immune system?
Yeah, well, it's all about the amount of cortisol your body releases. And then that starts to release a lot of what's called pro inflammatory cytokines. Those are immune compounds that the harder you train and you kind of keep filling the bucket up of the inflammatory response, that starts to cause your immune system's ability to fight things off to be reduced. And that's why you'll see Olympians, for example, they can train, 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 train. Then they go to the final time trials in order to qualify, and they pull up sick. They end up with a cold or flu. And you'll see that happen because it disrupts your microbiome. So, for one, when you train hard, your good flora in your gut get compromised, and 70% of your immune response is in your gut. And a lot of people don't realize that. And so there's a metabolic effect in your body where you create more inflammation, you're breaking down your tissue more. And the rule of thumb is the harder you train, the more you need to focus on recovery, right? And that's key, especially when you're just starting out and you're going back in the gym. It's more important how well you recover, because if you recover well, you'll be able to exercise.
So that whole thing of recovery. And so we'll get to that. But when it comes to, exercise, like, it's the beginning of the new year. We're in January, and everybody makes all of these New Year's resolutions. And it was so funny. I saw this commercial, and I never knew it existed, but it was advertising this watch, but it had this lady getting up and going and being committed to a program. But they start out saying, the second Friday of January is quit day. And I was like, what? So I had to research. It was like quit day. That's when most people give up on
That's
their New Year's resolutions. What is the biggest cause, based on your experience, for people to stop so soon when they're setting that goal to get in shape?
I think there's a couple. One, it's just you fall back into your old habits that you've learned over a period of years. So you kind of go back to, well, do I really need to do that? Things get in the way. The other one is people try to do too much too fast. So, whether you're trying to cut down maybe alcohol intake or you're trying to exercise more, my advice, I mean, obviously, unless have a serious alcohol problem, my advice is if you're one of those folks that you're drinking the 9-ounce glass of wine instead of the 5-ounce glass of wine at the end of the day, right? Start to cut down gradually. If you're exercising, start to exercise gradually. If it's 15 minutes a day, the biggest problem I see is that people go, well, I can't go to the gym and get that whole hour in. I guess I'll just get it in tomorrow. And then tomorrow it gets easier to not go again. And my point to them is always, well, you develop habits by consistency. So even if you just went outside and walked for 15 minutes, or you went to the gym and instead of doing an hour, you did 20 minutes, but you did something and you'll
Hmm.
feel better. And what makes people stay on their habits is when they feel better, right? If it doesn't feel better, well, then people are going to fall off, right? But I think that's one of the big ones. People establish their old habits and then fall back into them. The other one is stress. I'm telling you right now. I mean, when you're under stress,
Hmm.
you crave food more. You want comfort food. Yeah, your energy goes down. You get that midday slump in your energy because your stress hormones are up, and then all of a sudden they're crashing, and your blood sugars are off, and it really just becomes what I try to get people to understand is you're not doing a New Year's resolution. You're doing a lifetime resolution. You're doing a lifestyle resolution. What do I need to do to change my equation for my health? And a lot of times people have to get sick or they're hurting or they get scared because of a relative before they do something themselves. And I'd really rather have people learn about what's good for them, be motivated for them to change, but then change at the pace they are capable of changing too. Because not everybody can just jump in. I always tell people there's two kinds of people. There's Spartans, and then there's the everyday folks. I was always a Spartan. If I walked into an office and somebody told me you have to do these 10 things, the first thing I would say is, well, why didn't you give me 12?
Yeah.
And, I can do 12. If you're giving 10 to everybody, I can do 12. And I do them, right? But that's that's a little different mentality. And most people aren't wired that way. And so we want to make changes and add to our lifestyle benefit. And the biggest thing is go get a blood test, find out where your health's at, do an inventory of how you feel, and then imagine, do I really want to feel this way the next 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years of my life?
You just brought up something interesting. You talked about getting a blood test, and you have a book out that says your blood never lies. Your blood never lies. So, what is it about the blood test that can help you when it comes to exercising?
Well, in general, what I think a lot of times when people go get a blood test, it's you either have a disease or you don't, right? You got
Mhm.
diagnosed or you didn't. But the reality is, a lot of lab tests are going in the wrong direction, sometimes a decade before you end up kind of being diagnosed, crossing over that finish line. I'll give you a good example. If you have a 95 blood sugar, that's in the normal range. But a 95 blood sugar is giving you a 60% risk of being a person with type 2 diabetes in the next 10 years. Now, if you know about diabetes, most people, 1 in 2 people in the US are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So most people know somebody that's diabetic. You gain weight, you get blood pressure problems, you increase your risk of non-traumatic blindness, type 3 diabetes, also known as dementia. So you increase your cognitive risk. And so I think when you look at a blood test and you start to look at it for where is my future health going? Well, that's what motivates you to exercise, right? Because exercise improves your mood. Exercise is going to reduce your risk of diabetes. It's going to reduce your risk of heart disease. Those are just the three simple things that it does, not to mention it'll help trim that waistline, which is what most Americans need. We got over 70% of the population's overweight. We're going to have 50% of the US population is projected to be obese by the year 2030. So there's a lot of benefits to exercise, but I always like that blood test because I don't know. I like doing, ruthless compassion with people that I consult with, right? I'm gonna scare them a little bit so I can get them to be motivated to make a change in their life.
At times, fear is an excellent motivator. At times, fear is an excellent motivator. Like, I'm not going to exercise. Well, if you don't exercise, you'll be dead next week. I think I'll
I think
exercise.
I'll exercise.
I think I'll do that. You talked about gut health and the role that it plays in your
Right.
overall health. My current trainer told me, abs are made in the kitchen. Abs are made in the kitchen,
There you
and
go.
so it's all about diet and what you're putting in. So, what helps someone to have good gut health?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think your trainer's right. I mean, here's what I'd say. The other piece of that's important, though. There's a lot of people that do exercise and do watch their diet, and they don't lose weight, and that's because their chemistry has already shifted so much that unless they do something about that chemistry, maybe if it's a man, their testosterone dropped out, or maybe they have insulin resistance, and now they do need one of the semaglutide or tirzepatide, the new drugs that everybody's running after now. But the first thing for a good gut is fiber. Most people just don't get enough fiber. You only get 2 grams of fiber per serving of fruit or vegetable. And I always tell people we eat 3 vegetables for every fruit. Because if I say eat fruit and vegetables, people will eat a bunch of fruit and never touch that broccoli. Like I'd way rather have them berries, a banana, and some pineapple than have that broccoli and cabbage, And the reality is you get more nutrient density when you get those vegetables. So 3-to-1 on your vegetables to fruit. Try to get a minimum of 30 grams of fiber in today. So if you were going to get that just from your diet, you're going to have to eat 15 servings of vegetables and fruit a day. And that's hard today. And you got to watch eating too much bread to get some of that fiber because people are eating too much bread. I mean, how many people go to dinner and that warm, good smelling loaf of bread gets put on the table? And I know nobody touches it. They just look at it or they open it up and sniff it. But you see a bunch of people sniffing their bread at the dinner plate table. They're not going to eat it, right? But, people mow through that or the tortilla chips, right? You go to a Mexican restaurant, before you know it, you've already blown through the first basket of tortilla chips and you're getting a second one. And those are the things that are difficult. So if you're not going to get in, and I think most people have trouble with fiber. So I like people taking fiber, whether they take Metamucil. I like sun fiber because you can put it in your coffee, you can put it in water, you can put it in tea. You can just it's clear, it dissolves, you don't taste it, and it provides fiber. You're going to have a better bowel movement, but the best thing about fiber is it feeds the beneficial bacteria of your intestine. Probiotics are incredibly important because research has shown, one, that if you got good probiotic, you take a probiotic, you're going to reduce your incidence, severity, and duration of colds. So it's cold and flu season. We're getting hit with that quad flu epidemic going on right now. 4 different bugs out there running around on people. So that's big. But they've even shown that you recover quicker from exercise if you have beneficial flora. Now, when I was at the NBA Summit, I gave a talk to all the NBA performance leads. This was about a year and a half ago. And I brought up the new research showing that the harder you exercise, the more your good flora get, destroyed. And that makes you more prone for that immune system shift where you can be more prone to colds and flus, more inflammation, maybe your gut's hurting you. So probiotics and fiber are what's going to keep the gut healthy. And then a sit-up or two isn't going to hurt you. And then, of course, watching the kind of foods that you're eating. I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm Italian, man. I mean, I love pizza. I love pasta. Shoot, I even love nachos. It's close enough to Italian. I mean, it's kind of like lasagna in a way. It's layered. You
Yeah,
know, it's got all the food groups on it. Come on. But
most definitely.
the problem is most of the foods that people are picking are very energy dense. So a lot of calories and not a lot of nutrient density. So they don't get the nutrients that their body needs. So now you stack up the excessive calories. In general, when I had a research organization looking at weights, the big thing was we'd ask people, how many calories do you think you are taking in a day? And they would say, oh, 2,000. And then my dietitians would do a diet inventory on them. They were eating 4,000, and it was all weight loss studies that we were doing, right? So in general, people eat too much, they eat too often, they eat too late, they pick the wrong foods, they're under a bunch of stress, and then they don't get a good night's sleep. And that's the big start to this. And that's also why people get, they get sore. They go and work out and they get sore because they don't have the nutrients to help their body overcome all that lactic acid they build up.
So, talk to us about what you consider three powerful nutrients that we can incorporate to help us.
Well, I mean, one of my favorite, and I mean, that's been a favorite supplement of mine for at least, I'm telling you, maybe 30 years, is aged garlic extract. Now, it's not eating garlic. Eating garlic is good. Once again, I'm Italian. Eating garlic is best. But when you age garlic, it changes the chemical composition of the garlic. So all of the volatile compounds that give you that stinking rose effect go away. So you won't smell by taking it, have that or garlic odor. And new compounds come out. So aged garlic extract, otherwise known as Kyolic, Kyolic, has got 900 publications on it, multiple human studies. Now, in this particular case, they did a study that just released, giving it to middle-aged, people that worked out. And what they found when they took aged garlic extract is that their volume of oxygen went up. So their oxygen uptake was better. They got rid of their lactic acid quicker. They didn't stay as sore as long, and they were better able to train that following day. So their resistance to fatigue also went up. Now, if you're not exercising that much, maybe you're walking 20 minutes 5 days a week, 30 minutes 5 days a week. The minimum should be 30 minutes 6 days a week. If you follow the American Heart Association, that would be the goal. Even then, you should think about taking aged garlic extract because it helps with blood pressure help. It keeps your blood vessels very pliable. So you're not getting that quote hardening of the arteries, right? Blood vessel stiffness as you age, your blood pressure goes up and gives you heart. The other thing it does is it reduces vulnerable plaque in your arteries, which is a big deal. And then it supports immune function. So it helps to build T killer cells in your body when you take it. And it acts as a prebiotic. So it feeds the beneficial flora in your gut. So aged garlic extract is good for everyone, but if you're exercising and you're over the age of 40, you should definitely take it to reduce all the soreness that you get from the lactic acid buildup.
And so, what's another nutrient?
Well, I mean, we talked about probiotics. I mean,
Probiotics.
probiotics are incredibly important, right? If you want it, a couple brands, Chiodophilus, great brand, DNA verified strains, really good. So that's great. And the third one are the plant sterols and sterolins. And you remember the first word in that sentence, plant. You got to eat a plant. You can't have tortilla chips and bread and rice, right? You got to go for the plants. And so plant sterols and sterolins are the healthy fats in plants that actually feed your immune system and keep your immune system in what's called balance, or it modulates your immune response. So you're able to go in either direction. If you got to have an inflammatory response, it's able to do it. If you got to fight off a bug, it's able to do it. So they gave this to athletes. The product, and it's very exact. It's got to be 100-to-1 ratio of sterols to sterolins, the way it was studied. There's several papers on this. It's called Moducare, Moducare, Moducare. They gave it to endurance runners who normally would get upper respiratory tract infections after they did a marathon. They gave them Moducare during their training and after. And what they found was none of them got their upper respiratory illness that they would normally get after running a marathon. Because remember, the harder you exercise, the more prone you are to getting sick. So you're training for a marathon, you're training pretty hard. And then the other thing is they were able to get back to their normal exercise and training quicker. Now, why do I think Moducare is important for everyone? If you go out, say post-COVID, everybody's out there running around getting echinacea and golden seal and elderberry and zinc and vitamin D, all good. But like echinacea, golden seal, those are immune stimulants. Moducare is almost like you can think of it as an immune food that keeps your immune system fortified and in balance. So I think this is something that people should be taking year round because nobody's eating enough vegetables, right? I mean, let's just be honest. If you look at the data, average American might get 3 vegetables and fruits in a day. And if you count the fast food that they're going through, the tomato on top of the hamburger they ordered, right? I mean, it's not like they're eating a nice big green salad with kale in it. Or like one of my favorites is cooked greens. I love it when my wife makes cooked greens. It's like one of my favorite foods. But a lot of people aren't like that. They're not eating enough greens. They're not eating enough vegetables, not enough broccoli, not enough cauliflower, not enough turnips, not enough red bell peppers and orange bell peppers. And these are the Brussels sprouts, right? These are the things. I can tell you one thing, they fill you up. They're not a lot of calories and they fill you up, give you a lot of nutrients. And it really is a great strategy. And even if you're, whenever I have a patient, they say to me, I don't do vegetables. What do you mean you don't do vegetables? What happened? You get trauma? Your mom made you sit there at the dinner table till you ate your vegetables, and therefore, as an adult, you rebelled, or what? Yeah, it's one of the food groups that your body absolutely needs. And so, Moducare actually does a great job replacing a lot of the nutrients that you get from those vegetables.
Wow, that's very interesting. So that's a lot of things. Before we get to ways to mitigate muscle soreness, can you break down what it really means to crack the metabolic code? What does it really mean to crack the metabolic code? That's one of your books as well. So what does that really mean? And then why is it crucial for long-term health?
Yeah, great question. So, I went on this journey to really understand why people either move towards health as they age or why they get sick as they age. And, the metabolic code's about understanding that your body is a system of systems, that when your body has high cortisol due to stress, it causes you to become more insulin resistant. And now you throw your glucose off. And when you're under a lot of stress and your glucose is off, it lowers your thyroid. And now you start getting tired and you're not burning fat like you should, and you're not making energy. And then if that gets bad enough, so you're under a lot of stress, it can start to affect your gut. So gut immune brain is another network in your body that is related to how your gut, which is connected to your brain through a nervous system called the enteric nervous system. So it turns out when you get under a lot of stress, you cause GI problems. If you have a lot of GI problems, it could trigger stress. And what the signals are to that are the chemical compounds that your immune system releases. So gut immune brain is another network. So understanding how your body is functioning, that it's all related. That's the metabolic code. And we actually developed a cloud-based informatics program. You can go get your blood drawn at any LabCorp, any Quest in the United States, and it'll upload through the cloud, and it will start to organize that information into these networks so you can figure out where are you broke. Because what we've done for so long is develop medicines that are just like, oh, your cholesterol's high, take something for cholesterol. Well, it turns out that if you're insulin resistant, you make a lot of cholesterol. If you're under stress, you make a lot of cholesterol. So if you don't get to the source of the problem and what I call the root causes of your problem, you never really get back on the track towards health. you just kind of slowly spiral downward. And that's why people end up on 5 and 6 and 8 medications in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, is because we keep trying to put Band-Aids on bullet holes instead of understanding how is it that our body functions. And that's what the metabolic code was all about, was connecting those dots. Once again, if you go and get your blood sugar done and you have a 95 blood sugar and you're at that 60% risk of being diabetic, well, if your insulin is slightly high and your blood pressure slightly high and your kidney function slightly low and you're starting to notice a change, I'm starting to get muscle cramps, I've depleted my magnesium. Well, now all of a sudden you're on that railway to take you to diabetes and all the complications of diabetes. And that's what the metabolic code's about, is how to turn back those metabolic complications in an easy way. Now, what's an understandable way to do?
So, how does metabolism change with age, and what can we do to maintain optimal metabolic function?
Yeah, it's a great question. The first thing I want to do is redefine metabolism. So, metabolism isn't how many calories you burn. Metabolism is the sum total of all of the biochemical reactions going on in your body that's either leading you towards, balance and good health, or it's taking you towards disrupted health. And so your metabolism, people that are overweight, if you do their basal metabolic rate, a lot of times they got a high basal metabolic rate because they're carrying around a bunch of extra weight, but they're not burning it off. So the key is to understand what aspect of my metabolism, for example, is preventing me from making energy, or preventing me from burning fat, or preventing me from feeling focused and cognitively sharp. So the new terms in healthcare over the last 15 years, metaflammation, metabolic inflammation leads to inflammatory aging. So what happens as we age, if we're not taking care of ourselves, is our immune system makes more inflammatory compounds that damage our organs and tissues and accelerates our aging, increases our weight gain, makes us less efficient at burning fat. But if we can keep ourselves in check as we're aging, now we don't have to move down that path. I look at aging as a disease. I don't look at aging as just getting old. It's like, well, are you getting old and are you still fit? I mean, I know for me, I'm the exact same weight I was when I was 16 years old, and I was an athlete, and I've worked at doing that. But even if you let yourself go, I mean, you can get it back. It's just work. The only thing I'll say is it's work. And, there's no magic pill. I don't care. Even you take that GLP-1 that's out there now, semaglutide, tirzepatide, people are losing weight. But if they don't change their habits when they go off that medication, when they've got to their goal weight, the weight comes right back. And that's because they didn't change their habits and didn't change their lifestyle.
Wow. So it sounds like you, with this metabolic code cracking, it's the actual fountain of youth that they were always searching for.
It's work. And work is the fountain of youth. That's it. Work on your health. You gotta make smart selections on your food. You got to get sleep. Sleep is so important. And a lot of people just undervalue sleep, or they have sleep apnea. I mean, you got your spouse or your partner elbowing you all night because you're stopping breathing. You got to go get that checked out, because that disrupts your metabolism, increase your risk of, acute cardiac event, but also increases your risk of diabetes, blood sugar, and obesity.
Wow. One other question related to your metabolism. What role do genetics play in metabolic efficiency, and can we override genetic predispositions through lifestyle choices?
Wow. You're just challenging me left and right. I think that scripture reading at the start of our night got you going here. It got me going. So I mean, this is good. Actually, genetics play a very small role. It's not about your genes that often. Now, there is an occasional really familial obesity gene, but it's very rare. And I'll give you a good example. I have every gene for obesity. My brother was 476 pounds. My mother was obese. My father was a type 2 diabetic that battled obesity until he came to move in with me at 79. And I introduced him to the treadmill and I introduced him to eating healthy. And he lived to 91. He's 79 years old. He was a poorly controlled diabetic that just had a duodenal cancer because diabetics have a higher risk of gastrointestinal cancers. He had to have a Whipple surgery, which is a surgery where at his age, he's only going to live 2 years. But we changed his diet, got him on the treadmill, and more importantly, we embraced him as a family coming into our home in a loving way where he was socially important. He lived 13 more years. We got to enjoy his company. And I think that's the other part that we miss in regards to health is the importance of socialization. That's why you go to the blue zones where people live to 100.
Mm-hmm.
All the old folks are all participating. They're all involved. We're not shoving them in a home and seeing them once a month, right? And I think that's important. But from genes, look, here's where genes become a problem. Say you got all these obesity genes and diabetes genes. Well, then you learn a bunch of bad habits. You start drinking, Coca-Colas or, whatever, cream sodas, you're getting that 9 teaspoons of sugar in your 12-ounce drink. And then you got to have that Dunkin' Donut. And then you got to have yourself a Danish. Then you got to have that piece of pie at night. And then you're going to eat some pasta and soak up some bread with that pasta sauce. You start feeding your body the wrong things and having a lifestyle like not exercising, you're going to turn those genes on that you were dealt. And then they become important. But if you take control of your health, you'll keep the gene risk at bay. Only about 15% of your health equation is your genetic risk.
Mm. Wow. So if you feed the genes, they will grow.
Exactly it. Yeah. And as will the size of your genes when you go to buy them.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And I'm, one thing that you just said that really inspired me was the fact of, you still weigh the same that you did when you were younger, 16, the same body weight. And I was just having a conversation with someone today about, my goal is to get to a specific weight. And I got some pictures of me when I was in the military and all that. Yes, I'm younger in those photos, but my body frame is the same. I've just put more on it. And
That's
so
right.
now I've just got to take off what I put on it and I can get back there. And the challenge was when I started, I thought I was 21. So I wanted to do like I was in basic training again in 8 weeks and do this and do that. And all of a sudden I was like, ah, ah, and I just stopped. And then dealing with the fibromyalgia and things, I was like, oh my goodness, it's like this just hurts too much. But I jumped in with the mindset of a 21-year-old, but not exercising according to my current age, which I can still get back to that look. And that's the look I desire.
That's
Which
right.
leads me to this. How do I mitigate this muscle soreness? And when I read one of these, I was like, really? But how can I mitigate that muscle
Yeah.
soreness
Well,
getting into the gym?
yeah, here's the thing. Exactly what happened with you is what happens with people. You build up because fibromyalgia, you have too much lactic acid build up in your muscle and you just feel sore all the time. You can't get rid of it. Your muscles can't pump it out because you've developed all this ischemia. You're not getting oxygen to those muscles anymore. That's why that aged garlic's so powerful because it dilates the blood vessels, gets the oxygen to the muscle. So, what are some things you can do? One, you can drink beet juice, very popular. You see a bunch of ads on TV now about getting beet powder and drinking beet powder. Why is that important? Beets increase something called nitric oxide in your body, which goes down as you age. So, if you think of the little blue pill, that has nitric oxide. Right. I mean, so that's a similar mechanism, but now you're getting that blood flow to your brain and to your muscles. And so now when you increase that nitric oxide, you're delivering oxygen to the muscle and you're carrying the lactic acid away. Now, if you don't like beets or you don't want to drink beet juice, Well, you could try eating arugula or things like that. You'd have to eat a lot of arugula though, versus drink some powdered beet powder. You can get it at a lot of stores, and it's going to be a big help. Now, the other one is drinking coffee.
That's the one that got me because I am not a coffee drinker. I love me a cup of hot tea, green tea, lemon tea with ginger, some good old Earl Grey, but I just don't like coffee.
But you'll here's the thing. If you like green tea or Earl Grey, black teas, you can use that. It's the caffeine. So if you don't want to drink coffee, drink a cup of tea before your workout, and you will reduce what's called delayed onset muscle soreness. DOMS is the term. Delayed muscle onset soreness is reduced by virtually 50% when you drink a cup of coffee before you work out. And the other thing that people don't realize, and this was a study done a while ago, is it actually improves hydration. So we always think of coffee dehydrating you. In a study, they showed that it actually serves to hydrate you. Now, I'm not talking about that grande venti triple latte with raspberry drizzle on it. That's a whole different story because you got sugar and you got milk and you got all this other stuff in there. I'm just talking about cup of tea, cup of black coffee, and you can see some improvements there, and you're not going to take on any calories either, which is great. So, really interesting that you do that.
Well, I heard in my mind, in my ears, I heard caffeine. And immediately I was like, oh, I can have a Coca-Cola before I go on the treadmill.
No. That's how your mind will play tricks on you. You got to go back to that Bible. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to drink a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Problem with, once again, here's the issue with Coke. Any soft drink, it's not just, I'm not picking on Coke. Any soft drink, it's very acidic, and when you drink it, if you're doing them regularly, people that drink more than 10 sodas in a week, they can lose bone density. So drinking soda pops, you can tell I'm from Pittsburgh because I call it a pop. So you drink a pop, and that messes with your chemistry. Then you add the sugar. Now, think about it. If I told you to go get a bag of sugar and take a glass, and then I want you to do 9 teaspoons of sugar into that glass, and that's how many teaspoons of sugar are in an average 12-ounce soda pop.
Wow.
Think about that. Do that, right? That's a lot of sugar. And that's going to throw your blood sugar off. And the number one most damaging thing to your arteries is elevations in post-meal blood sugars. So it's called postprandial hyperglycemia. Your blood sugar spikes up and it falls real quick. And that triggers inflammation that damages the inside of your arteries. That's why drinking sodas are not a good idea in general. Now, occasionally you want one, okay, but to make that part of your meal plan is kind of a mistake, a big mistake.
And that was my Achilles heel. I would drink 2 of them before I went to bed.
Wow. And that's
yeah. That's why I just saw my midsection just.
Well, here's the thing: when you got weight on your midsection, that's all due to insulin resistance. That when you put that belly fat on right around the waist, that Dunlap over the belt disease.
Yeah, Dunlap.
You got that. You got that Dunlap's disease. It's mainly due to the fact that you've become insulin resistant. You're taking in too much sugar, and you're going to layer that fat right around your midsection.
Yeah. And okay, so talk about 2 other things, but then I want to touch on. This is a great conversation. We're almost at 45 minutes, so I'm going to try to bring it home, as we say when we're preaching. I'm about to close. So yeah. So talk to us. So you talked about drinking coffee. What else can we do?
Well, there's a couple other things you could do. An Epsom salt bath is a great way to get rid of soreness, right? You could just do an Epsom salt bath. That's cheap, it's easy, and it's really good. If you belong to a gym that has a sauna, you can get into a sauna, let that heat kind of help out, get some of that soreness out. You can get one of those massage rollers, those foam rollers now.
Okay.
You can pick up one of them rollers for $5 at a lot of places now. And you want to roll on your muscles before you work out for a few minutes. And then you want to roll on them for a few minutes after, like get the soreness, get the lactic acid, roll it out, almost like you're rolling out dough. You're rolling lactic acid out of your muscle. And that's a really good strategy. And they don't cost much money, right? Most people can afford to get a roller. The
No.
other one is if you want to go a little more, you could get one of those massage guns, right? They're real popular now, the handheld.
Yeah, I have one of those. Okay.
Yeah, they're really good, right? So you want to do those before you work out and do it some after you work out. I like those because you can do your arms a little better. It's a little harder to roll on the arms. You can get on your side, you get on your back, you can get on your legs. But with that massage gun, you can get the shoulders and get the neck and all those kind of good things. So I really like those. And then, of course, if you can afford it, get a massage. Massages are a great way to loosen up your muscle and really help improve kind of kneading your tissue, because you've got this fascia over your muscle that gets kinked and twisted, and then it doesn't want to let blood flow in there, and it wants to hold the lactic acid in and not get the oxygen in, and that's going to make you stay sore for an extended period of time. So if you can, get a massage is great, but if not, get one of those massage guns, get a massage roller, and try and remember, don't try to overdo when you're first starting back at exercise. It's the single biggest thing that I think people end up making the mistake of is they overdo it, they get hurt, and now they can't do something for 3 weeks, and now they've broken that habit that they really had committed to.
Yeah. So talk to us briefly about what we can find at your website here. At your website, what can we find when we go there? Because you have a couple of them, and so talk to us about. I mean, here's one.
There's a younger version of myself. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, if people want to get a lot of tips on health, I've got a lot of articles posted on jimlavalle.com. Obviously, go to probiotics.com for great research. And then if people are into Instagram, the real Jim LaValle, my son is working with me now, and he's got his master's in human performance and exercise physiology. And he's really got all of my information that I have put out over the last 40 years. He's getting it out there into the social media and really posting a lot of valuable information. When you look at this metabolic code, when you get a blood test, that's the kind of report you get that kind of shows you, well, where are you at? What 5 networks of dysfunction are in your body? Where do you need to start for you? Because, you could have weight gain, but people could have 2 different reasons why that weight gain's on, and you want to discover which one it is for you. And that's what the metabolic code's about.
Okay, so we can just go there and you see we can subscribe to the Metabolic Minute, a lot of different things there. So for my guest today, please go to his website, jimlavalle.com, and then he also has another website at probiotics.com. So talked about insulin resistance with all this belly fat, because there was a point in time when I could, put my arms and rest it.
Yeah, you had a little rest stool for your arms, huh?
At a rest stool, and someone told me the old folks used to call it the furniture disease, where my where, is that the furniture disease where my chest done rolled into my drawers, so I'll say
you got the chest of drawers. All right,
chest of drawers.
That's a good one, man. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that now because I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, and so yeah. So what is it
on Sunday? I'm flying to Florida in Orlando, and I'm talking at a big church congregation about health, and I am using the chest of drawers. I'm using that.
Go right ahead. Take poetic license to use
I'm gonna say I got it at Mr. Speaker, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, this whole concept, and I've heard, you can't do spot reductions when it comes to getting rid of fat. It's just going to go when it goes. But what are some of the things you can help get rid of that visceral belly fat? I mean,
Yeah,
is it cardio? Is it, decreasing my calories 500, a day and doing all the exercise, less in, more out. But it's that belly fat. And it seems like it is the most stubborn to go. And the love handles and all of that. What does it take?
I know that's my genetic weakness. I've got to really watch it. So I eat what's called a modified low carb diet. So I eat lots of vegetables. I watch how much starch I take in. So I'll eat a small serving of starch each day. And then I eat quality proteins and then fats like olive oil and avocado. Because the problem is when you've trained your body to be insulin resistant, that's where the value of this new it's not a new category of drugs. The GLP-1 drugs like semaglutide or, Manjaro, Ozempic, they've been out for 20 years. But now, because so many people are insulin resistant, they had to open it up to people that were overweight and obese. Because what happens is it's almost like a thermostat that gets stuck. You can't access the fat, right? It's like a
Mm.
thermostat that's not letting you turn the heat up or down anymore. It's just stuck at one temperature. And so when you use the GLP-1 drugs, the Ozempics and the Manjaros, it opens that thermostat back up and allows you to access that fat. Now, here's the issue. If all you do is take that drug, your appetite goes down, you take in less food, it quiets the food noise, is what a lot of people, when I interview them, they say, yeah, my food noise is just down. I'm not just reaching for stuff. The issue though is if you don't eat enough protein, you're going to lose muscle, and you don't want to lose muscle. So you got to eat enough protein if you are on one of those medications, or even when you're trying to lose weight, even if you're not using one of those medications, you're just cutting your calories down. You want to keep that protein level up so that you don't lose muscle mass. Because we know when you go on a lower calorie diet or you're on one of those medications that they're using now for weight loss, you will lose 30 to 40% of your weight will be lean mass. You'll lose muscle, 30 to
Wow.
40%. But if you exercise and you get enough protein in, and maybe you take some creatine, which is really good for your brain. Everybody's talking about it now for brain health, as well as maintaining your muscle. You could take 5 grams of creatine a day. You can make sure maybe you drink a protein drink during the course of the day if you're not as hungry, or eat good lean protein. If you can get that in, then you're going to limit that and you're not going to lose that lean mass, because you got to remember your muscle is what's metabolically active. That's what's going to give you the power to burn fuel. And if you're losing lean mass, you don't have as big of an engine to burn that fuel. And it's a big misconception. I know with my work at Lifetime as their chief science officer, and we've put together, since I've come on board with them, more of a scientific approach to weight loss, where we're measuring your lean mass and fat mass, and we're monitoring to make sure that you're not losing lean mass and you're mainly losing fat mass. Muscle is the currency of aging.
Wow. I love it. And you bring up something in my mind here because we have calories and we have fat. So, how do you burn each one of those? What's the difference? Is there a different engine that helps me burn calories, and then there's another engine that helps me burn fat? Because there's all of this stuff in was triglycerides and all of that stuff that talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, when you're at triglycerides, it's high because you're eating too much sugar and probably drinking too much alcohol, right? I mean, triglycerides go up when you're drinking 2 Cokes a night. Oops, did I say that?
Hey, it's okay. I can take it like a man.
Your triglycerides go up when you're taking in too much sugar. The issue is when you're insulin resistant, you turn on this hormone called glucagon, and it doesn't turn off. And glucagon blocks your ability to access fat. And then what you start to do is you store something called white fat, which is like the cellulite, visceral, nasty fat. versus brown fat. Now, as you start to correct your metabolism, you beige your white fat, and the beige fat then turns to brown fat, and then you can burn that fat. But for a lot of people, if they don't want to try using like the drug or get on a weight loss program with the GLP-1s, they can use berberine as a botanical extract that's had a history of working pretty well, and then getting enough magnesium and chromium. Because if you're not eating vegetables, you're not getting magnesium, and low magnesium status is the number one nutrient deficiency that is associated with the development of obesity, prehypertension, and prediabetes. And so get a couple minerals in, like magnesium and chromium. If you want to take something like berberine, great. But the big thing is you got to be consistent about, I'm not going to eat a lot of carbs. I'm not going to eat too late at night. I mean, I'd try to shut off that kitchen at 7 p.m. at the latest, right? And that's where a lot of people get into trouble, is all of a sudden they get watching a TV show and, you know what, I think I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm going to popcorn. I'm going to pour a bunch of butter on that popcorn, and that's where you get into trouble. So, you think about 12-hour eating windows. Traditionally, how you used to eat as a kid. I know how I ate as a kid. I woke up in the morning. I ate breakfast at 7 a.m. I ate lunch at 12 noon. I ate dinner at 5 to 6 p.m. And the kitchen was absolutely closed. Do not go in and make a mess. Don't go in and open up a cookie jar and make a crumb on mom's freshly wiped counter. You're done. And we don't do that anymore. As I said, we eat too much. So our plates are too big. We eat too often. So even in between our meals, we got food around us. And your brain might, you might be thirsty. Your brain interprets that as you're hungry. So now the M&M jar that's over at your coworker's spot is like, oh, they got some M&Ms. And then you eat too late. And when you eat too much, you eat too often, you eat too late, and then you don't get a good night's sleep. That is a recipe for weight gain and metabolic disruption. And that's why when you're going to get back, because now when you have that recipe, now your blood vessels are stiffer. You're not delivering oxygen to your tissues. And that's why those things I talked about earlier, like Kyolic, probiotics, Magicare, making sure that you maybe try some beet juice or something, get the massage wand out. You got to work at it on a consistent way. And that's the other thing. People want results overnight. And I usually tell people, did you get fat overnight?
Yep.
I mean, look, my brother was, like I said, 476 pounds. I love people of all sizes. I don't, but I am brutally honest with them. It's like, you didn't gain that weight overnight. You worked at it.
Yep.
Gaining that weight. Now we got to work at getting it off.
Yep. So yeah, that's the thing, and that's what most people want is overnight, and that's the thing. It takes time. It takes time, and that's why people, like, if they don't see any results, they give up. But I'm here to tell you, it can be done.
You
And
did it.
I did it. I've got trying to get down to 180 by April the 1st. I've got over 60 something more days, but I want to get it to where it stays off. And I've changed my diet. So, I mean, this has been great. I've learned so much, and my listening audience will be well educated. But before we leave, let us know, how can we obtain copies of your book, Blood Never Lies and Cracking the Metabolic Code?
Amazon.com is an easy place to order those. Those are easy ones to pick up. And both of them have sold a lot of copies. I think Your Blood Never Lies book really turned people on to, looking at their lab tests, instead of the doctor just calling for the nurse from the doctor's office saying, "Oh, you're normal." Or am I good normal? Or am I just okay normal? Or am I kind of falling off the cliff normal? I mean, that's the purpose of that book, is to help you understand your lab tests and what you can do about them.
And so with that being said, we're going to prepare to close, and I'm going to give you the final word. I'm going to let Mr. LaValle speak the last word on Mr. Speaker Speaks.
I'd say the number one thing that we're all meant to do is experience joy in our life. And you can always experience more joy if you are feeling healthy, you're free of pain, you're thinking clearly, you're able to move, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy where you go to work, because that's what brings us together as a community. And it all starts with if you feel better with yourself. It's work, but it's worth it.
That's it. And I tell you what I tell everybody, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. And so we got to work
use
at
that
it.
one too. I got to come on your show more often.
Hey, you are welcome anytime, my friend, anytime, because this helps people. You know, we always say, you know, we want to be around, but you got to do the things to be around so you won't be around. And so here's the thing. So, I just love it. I thank God that, you know, I had the opportunity to meet you. And anytime you want to come on the show, I mean, I've interviewed you when I was on radio. And so I just enjoy talking with you and listening to you and learning from you. And so with that, man, I pray that God keeps you for a very long time and keep doing what you do, because, you know, I work for the Florida Department of Health, and in the stairwell, they have these things about taking the flights of stairs. But the one thing they have up there is they say the first wealth is health. And so you got to have your health. So once again, my friend, Mr. LaValle, I thank you for being a wonderful guest here on Mr. Speaker Speaks. And for my listening audience, remember, visit me at vincenttedwards.com and join the online community at vincentondemand.com. And like always, remember, life is all about purpose. Are you living yours? And all that you do, be magnificent. And until next time, be good, be blessed, but most of all, be like Mr. LaValle and be a blessing to someone.